sometimes it's the beer test thing. Is this someone you'll have a beer with? Do you enjoy having a beer with this person? That
Well,
says a lot.
That's going to be a bad test for me.
I guess we should be partners.
We should. I mean, but honestly, I'll drink with anybody.
Oh yeah, we'll drink with it. But would you do it again and again and again?
Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop.
Here we go, everybody. Welcome to the Small Business Safari. Alan, cheers.
Cheers. Good to see you.
It's been a while. It's been a while seeing you. We're excited to have you back. And I'm excited about this, yes, because Duane is somebody I got a chance to meet. Duane Johns, Builder Nuggets podcast, and other famous endeavors that he's worked on. I got a chance to meet him in person at the NARI National event and get to hear his story and what he's done and how he's helping other builders and remodelers kind of grow in their business and also look towards the end of what it looks like to be success and get to the end of the mountaintop.
Were you in a paid for line for autographs from Duane?
So Duane did not come up looking for my book or looking for me to sign his book or my book. No, he wasn't really too enthralled with that. Actually, he wasn't even remotely excited about that. Huh. No, I'm kidding. It's good. Duane, welcome to the Small Business Safari. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, doing well, Chris. Thanks for having me on.
Duane, I can't introduce you better than you probably can introduce yourself. Why don't you just tell us all a little bit about where you came from and where you are today, and then we'll start kicking around some questions.
Yeah, I think it goes back. You did say it was the NARI event down in Savannah. I mean, Savannah is just what a fun town. We try to get a chance to go there whenever we can. I have some friends down that way, but I am a builder, remodeler. I've been doing it all my life. What am I now? 53, I guess. But I guess to some degree, a typical story, I was the guy that was summer jobs, stacking lumber on the job site. And, then, hey, I stacked the lumber real well. So now maybe you can have some tools and try this, and started learning some of the other skills, honing my skills to become better at, carpentry and painting and cabinetry. And I think one of the things I noticed early, I had some good early mentors, work for some really good custom builders. And, I kept my eyes open to what all the others were doing. I always was really intrigued and found it interesting to see what's the plaster guy doing? What is the electrician doing? What are all these other folks doing? Because I think we've to some degree gotten to a world of specialists nowadays, to where there's not that many people, I think, left in the industry that have a really just that well-rounded knowledge of all the different facets of building, remodeling, whatever it might be.
Well, the fact that you said plaster kind of ages all of us because there's no such thing as plasters anymore. As I've been trying to find one in Atlanta, I'm like, no, we're just going to rip it off, go drywall. So you're right, though, but that's an art. When you first, so you did not go into college. You stayed in the trades and worked your way up. And your kind of your journey of an apprentice, if you will, through that. When you were thinking about moving up, you said you went from the wood. Did you go framing, then custom trim, then is that the path you were thinking?
It was a little bit of all of it. I wouldn't say I really had a plan laid out. It went from summer job to summer job. And then, as I said, I've done painting, I've done roofing, I've done framing, trim work, worked on cabinetry. And yeah, I had the opportunity to pursue and maybe go off to college. But, I was born and raised in the Hamptons, so I was fortunate enough to work on some of these gorgeous oceanfront estates. And frankly, at 18, 19, 20 years old, it was a pretty good living. So I said, wow, you know what? I like what I'm doing. There's plenty of work. I'm going to make this my career. So I even then wasn't totally sure what it was, but became opened my own business, was a subcontractor for a lot of different builders, kept doing more and more stuff. And then I would say it was around 1995 or so. my wife and I said, hey, we were recently married, hadn't had kids yet. And we were like, we love this area, but we also want to see some other parts of the world. And that's when we moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina, which was just an exploding market when it came to building and new construction. And actually got introduced to my current business partner, Roger Ketchum. We kind of joined forces, worked at a company together for about a year or so, said, hey, we've got the skills. I've had a previous business. Let's open our own business. So we dove right in. At the time when we started, the focus was primarily on renovations and larger renovations. We liked that type of work. We liked the challenge about it. There was a market, a niche in the Charlotte area that we kind of focused on. And for us, the big thing was the experience, because coming into it and when you're younger, you're all fired up and you're going to do everything yourself and can't understand why the other guys are screwing it up until you start to screw it up yourself. But for us, it doesn't have to be that miserable experience that everybody's talking about, so that was what we really tried to focus on, was how do we provide just a better experience to our clients? And we also wanted to provide a great experience for, the other folks that we work with and trades and vendors, just build relationships, So we went from wearing all the hats. I mean, we were the guys actually doing the work. And then before long, I found myself having to spend more time. Well, somebody's got to price these jobs out. Somebody's got to worry about getting the next job, and then that quickly went to, okay, let's take off that hat, put on another hat. Somebody's got to grow the business. Now we need to hire employees and we have to think about what goes into hiring. And now maybe we need software and, all the things that come when you're growing a business and a business is expanding. So it was a good relationship, Roger and I think the fact that I started to gravitate through the years a little bit more towards the business side, and he was focused a little bit more on the, on the construction side. And that's really where it went. We survived. We got through the downturn in 2008, came out the other side with a bit of a focus kind of on a design build type model and continued to grow the business. And I was someone that was always, and that's who I am to this day. I just constantly challenge everything. There's a better way to do stuff. There's a better way. And I was immersing myself in, some of the entrepreneur groups, business groups, some industry groups, and looking for better ways to just run a business, grow a business. Because, we had a good business. We had a great reputation, but there's a point where you wake up and you go, okay, what am I going to do with this thing when I grow up? Am I going to keep doing the same thing over and over again for forever? Or am I going to build something that maybe, I don't know, someday could provide either a path for retirement, something I could pass on to other teammates, something you could sell, who knows? But that became the thing that I was focused on. And while I was doing that, I got introduced to a company called Alair Homes, which is a franchise network of builders and remodelers across North America right now. I think we currently have over 100 locations. Liked what they had to offer. A lot of their values and things that they were doing aligned with mine. I was a little bit at first going, a franchise? How do you franchise this business? That doesn't seem like it makes any sense, but the more I dove into it, the more I realized I was like, wow, this is a group of builders and remodelers that are kind of like myself. They think there's just a better way to do this, and in a nutshell, what it is, it's a network of builders, remodelers that share a lot of the common needs, things behind the scenes, the accounting, the project management, software, branding, marketing, a lot of that stuff that, frankly, as business owners, we know we know the importance of it, but we either don't have the skill set or the patience and time to deal with it. So we kind of consolidate that, share a common set of resources for it, and then allows us to focus on the other things that we want, which is generally building, remodeling, and building relationships. So anyway, fast forward from that, joined Alair back, I think it was in 2016. I also, because I was the first Alair office in North Carolina, was offered a position, what they call a regional partner opportunity. So as a regional partner with Alair, I actually go out and will recruit other builders, remodelers, talk to folks and see if they have an interest in what we're doing, bring them into the fold here in North Carolina, and then in a way act as like a business coach. I support them after they're up and running. So for me, it's been a really interesting ride here over the last 6 to 8 years. I've found that my passion has moved from the building side, not so much of building homes as it is to building businesses. That's really where my passion is. I see so many builders, remodelers put 20, 30 years in and not have a whole lot at the end. That again, good business, maybe made a good living, but usually they end up closing the doors. They don't have a whole lot to hand over. So that's really where my focus is now, helping business owners get to that point. And in the last couple of years, started a podcast, the Builder Nuggets podcast. And that's really the main focus of that is how to create a rewarding business, and that obviously that looks different for everybody, what that is, but that's where my passion is. And I think full circle, that's kind of how you and I
that's how
we had a few drinks at the bar, and the conversations just kept going on and on.
Hey, that's how we met, Chris.
It is. There's a common theme here.
Yeah.
And I got to go back to, because I love this phrase. We were in Savannah, and Savannah somebody came up and said, do you know what they call Savannah compared to Charleston?
It's unwashed little sister.
I call it slutty sister, but yes.
Oh, okay.
We're
slutty
we can
sister.
say
Yeah,
slutty
that's
sister. Right. Isn't that funny? I love that. But yes, that's what we did. Duane, I'm gonna go back. You had the entrepreneurial bent early. You could tell by doing what you did, and then you took your bet on yourself and moved to Charlotte, a place I don't know if did you have a network there to go to, or did you just pop
not
in
at
and say,
all.
here we go?
Yeah, had someone in the family that I knew that lived down here, but really no connections at all. It was all definitely a very fresh start.
I did the same thing, Alan. I left Michigan Tech University and got everything in my S10 Blazer, including my dirt bike. It's everything I owned. And I came down and I stayed for 2 weeks with my aunt's parents, who I had met never. And they welcomed me with open arms, and the caps were amazing. And then I started grad school after that. So I obviously did the engineering thing first, but I love that you did this. The one thing that I was told when I went to leap into the corporate world or leave the corporate world and leap into entrepreneurship was, have you thought about going to work for somebody who does this first and see how they do it? And you get to learn on somebody else's nickel. And I went, nah, I'm smarter than that. What I do. But you did that. You came down and you worked for somebody for a little while. And you said that you had always had your eyes open looking. Did you find that experience really help propel you when you started your own business?
Oh, absolutely. Because when I came, as you said, when I came to Charlotte, it was sort of, have nail gun, will travel. It was just the truck full of tools, ladders, everything you could pack in and come down here. And said, I wasn't worried because I knew I had a good set of skills. I said, you know what, I'm going to work. I'm not worried about that. It was more around what do I really want to do? And so that opportunity with that company gave me a chance to, understand the market, see what's going on here, start building those relationships. As I said, I started to connect with vendors, trades, who were the good framers in town, and electricians, and then also got to know designers, architects, and that's really where it is. This is a relationship business. No matter what part of it you're doing, it's we did an episode on our podcast, one of my favorites, titled "It's a Relationship, Not a Transaction." And I think that's what happens. This business it's very transactional. But it's the relationship part that really makes it special.
Yeah. The fact that you're able to do that and then get started, that's the part I think a lot of people I miss. I would say, again, if I went back to it, maybe taking that year, but of course that year would have been 2008. I would have been scared shitless and probably gone back to corporate America and went, oh my God, I can't do it. I've lost my mind. Oh my God, it's a recession. But getting in just to learn all the nuances. And like you said, there's those small nuances that help you. Even if you have the best business acumen ever, it's who are the good suppliers, who are the good tradesmen, where's your team going to come from, and can you build a team that's better than somebody else? And if you can do that, then you can go out there and execute. And that's what you guys ended up starting to do that in Charlotte. You also did something that I'm interested in, because one thing I knew about myself going into this, I'm not a good partner. I actually had a guy say, you can just plop down in my cubicle and I won't even charge you. And I thought he was up to something. And he's a great friend of mine today, one of my best friends, really. But that's how bad I was at not trusting other people in this kind of space. So how did you work your partnership? Did you guys have an agreement clause? Did you have a contract in place? Did you just do handshakes and work your way out? Because you guys have now done this. You said what, 95 to
we're
gone 20 years.
Yeah, 25 years we've been working together. And to this day, and the relationship, like I said, it's still a great one. And I think it's that, from the beginning, it really wasn't much more than a handshake. I think we had done a number of projects together for that other company before we started our business. Um, sometimes it's the beer test thing. Is this someone you'll have a beer with? Do you enjoy having a beer with this person? That
Well,
says a lot.
That's going to be a bad test for me.
I guess we should be partners.
We should. I mean, but honestly, I'll drink with anybody.
Yeah, well,
Oh yeah, we'll drink with it. But would you do it again and again and again? But yeah, we just kind of hit it off. We connected on different levels. We were always, even on the projects we worked together on, it was always had each other's back. There was no, well, this is your task, this is my task. Just whatever it took to do it, we dove in and did it. And as I said, I think it was the fact that we were doing some really good work. We were getting people really liked what we were doing from clients and some of the designers, architects we were working with. And we knew we were onto something, and we couldn't sing, we couldn't dance. So we said, man, we better try to do this really well. So yeah, it just evolved from that. And then, I had taken some business classes and courses through the years. The both of us have always stayed engaged in some form of continuing education. So it was learning from others, a lot of it, and this is a tough industry because there's not a lot of sharing. And back then there certainly was not a lot of sharing, especially when it came 90s? Builder to builder or, remodeler to remodeler. It was just not, no. But I got involved with the NARI group early on, and even Remodelers Council, some of the HBAs, and you'd always find the one-off person that was willing to share, and that's kind of where I connected, and you'd learn tips from them, like one of the things we learned really on was like, you guys probably should consider something like a buy-sell agreement, and maybe purchase some life insurance on each other because. And we didn't even think of that. That wasn't anything that was even on our radar, but it was little things like that we would pick up along the way. And it was coming from people that had successful businesses, and I think what really, one thing that really helped Roger and I was that neither one of us carried an ego, and I struggle with the ego, and ego's big in this industry. Hey, it's our business. It's our baby. We've built it. But I think that's really what's helped us is neither one of us has ever carried the big ego and know our strengths, but we also know our limitations.
I don't know why I don't have a partner, Alan. I don't know why. I mean, for the love of God, everybody just needs to understand that I know everything.
You'll have a beer with everybody and you've got a massive ego.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, not a very good combination, is
it? Yeah. So partnership? No, probably not. Best thing we do right now is just be on the podcast together. And making, well, of course, we're making all this money. Although I am working on the Monday Night Brewing sponsorship, though.
There you go.
Yeah.
So,
for beers.
Duane, I have a question for you. So I've spent a lot of time in my checkered career in franchising from one direction to another. Worked at a franchisor's office. I've owned a franchise. I've been an employee at a franchise. And when you first talked about a builder's franchise, I was like, wow, the questions just started flying through my head because a lot of franchises are set up where somebody gets their golden parachute, like Chris from the corporate world, and then they want to buy a business, but they don't want the risks. So they'll buy a business that they really know very little about. And I kind of get, and then and in, like right now, the one that I'm seeing a lot in commercial real estate is mental health franchises. So you or I could buy a mental health franchise. We don't know anything about it, but we get, the 2 weeks of training, and then you hire professionals who know what they're doing. Talk to me a little bit about what a building franchise is, the kinds of people that they're looking for and some of the things. And it sounds like you're a business coach within the franchise. So you get some accountability, you get the shared system, so you don't have to learn all those lessons the hard way. But yeah, if you could just talk a little more about that, I'd love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And internally at Alair, we kind of call it the accidental franchise. It wasn't really intended to be a franchise from the onset, because the last thing we want to do is just go planting flags and opening, franchises all over the place just because it's, to your point, we are not going to be the kind of place where, oh yeah, just show up, sign the check, and we'll put you through 2 days of training and off you go. It's sort of opposite of that, to where we're only going to open another location somewhere if it's the right person, someone that's already experienced, they're engaged, they're in the industry, they understand how things work. And the model really is more around the concept of consolidation than it is really the franchise itself. It's that thought that think about it. Think about all of the other industries. Think about the car industry, the medical industry. I mean, almost every industry you can think of has gone through a pretty substantial form of consolidation. It's non-existent in custom construction. There is just no consolidation. Everybody's still alone on an island doing their own thing. And that's what the premise behind what we have is to say, hey, let's everybody we still want to have that, personalization that each business owner where they're working, whether it's an Alair Homes in Charlotte, there's an Alair Homes in Houston, Charleston, wherever it might be, you're going to have those personal relationships. We understand that, we understand that you are going to have, there's certain types of projects that you might do, whether they're kitchens and baths or large luxury custom homes. This franchise does lean towards the higher end, custom and luxury market. But, when you uncover things and get to the business aspects of it, that stuff really is the same or should be the same. There's fundamental things that you need to have in a business, things that you need to have so that it runs. We are big proponents of a very risk averse model. We believe in things like building projects with clients' money. We are not bankers. We shouldn't be funding projects. There's a novel concept.
Yeah, that's a gold nugget on everybody, right? Funding your customers' projects. Yeah, that's a serious non-starter. I had to lay the law on my guys just 2 months ago. That same thing. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a given set of systems and processes that are proven when it comes to accounting. You need to be in strong financial positions. So anyway, like I said, there's this set of things that we agree are non-negotiables. No matter what your business, no matter what your industry, you need to have these things. So why don't we just consolidate all that stuff? So one location kind of handles that, runs it in a world-class way, and then we all just get a piece of it. So as I'm scaling my business, if I need more accounting services, I just scale them up. I don't need to bring people in-house. Same thing for things like, as I said, training, branding, marketing. So, but the thing that you can't, we call it the intangible, that we bring to the table is we've also brought over 100 very successful qualified builders and remodelers into this network. So we have a mastermind unlike any other. I mean, you hear of things like Remodelers Advantage or Builder 20 groups, right? And they're great. They're phenomenal. But imagine that in a 365-day a year environment. We don't meet once a quarter or things like that. This is all the time. I can get on the phone right now and call builders and remodelers all across this network. And the cool thing is, we are truly comparing apples to apples. I'm not comparing my business model as a cost plus to yours that's a fixed cost. And, things are being done differently where things might be above the line, below the line. We have the ability to benchmark each other. It's pretty unique. And as I said, I was not somebody that was going to be, I wasn't enthralled by the idea of a franchise, but as I dug into it and realized it, I was like, wow, those are those things that for years and years I've been saying there's a better way. That's for the majority. That's what we're trying to solve with this, is putting together better systems and processes. So,
and a lot of what you're describing sounds to me like more of a cooperative than a franchise. And when I think about franchising, I think about the value of the brand. That's one thing all franchisors will say. If you open Chris's Burgers, as great as they might be, it just, it doesn't have the same brand recognition as any other household name. So with the franchise that you're with, if you deal with the franchisee in Charlotte and then you get a corporate reload to Houston and you go to the same company, are you getting the same experience, the same floor plans? I mean, talk to me about the brand and what the customer experience is like going from market to market.
Yeah, definitely the power of the bigger brand. Now, as I said, we want every location to still have that local feel. This is custom construction. We realize it. We're not trying to make it a cookie cutter type thing. We don't want it to be robotic. So yes, there's the power of the bigger brand, and we've seen that. I mean, I've seen that for examples right here in Charlotte. I mean, we've landed jobs where people have said, hey, I went down to visit my in-laws in Fort Myers and saw a beautiful custom home going up there, stopped in Charleston to see some friends and saw another Alair home there. And now we're here. You guys are in some really top markets. So, it gives that cachet, like people feel comfortable about that. But at the same time, we know through the way we brand and market people on the local level that you've got to connect with your communities. So that's what we put a lot of emphasis is that the marketing you're going to do in your local community is going to be very driven towards that market. So that there is that local flair. But the thing that comes with the bigger brand, I think that most business owners, they underestimate, and sometimes I don't even know if they realize it. And it was big for me too, is that when it's Ed's remodeling, or Ed's building company, it's difficult. There's times where you will get to a point where you don't want it to be that anymore, because there's so much connection to it. And people, I think, even whether it's employees or teams, they probably have that inherent feeling that, well, if I'm not Ed's brother or cousin, I mean, where am I going to go with this? This is always going to be Ed's thing. And that's unleashed me as a business owner, because I've been able to create opportunities for my team to where they know they're part of something bigger. It's something that we promote within the Alair network, is we have project managers at a pretty regular clip that will come in, perform really well, get their head around what we're doing, and say, hey, I would really like to go out and open my own location. And what better thing as a partner, as a business owner, to say, hey, you know what? Instead of looking at it as some kind of threat, you could say, wait a minute, here's an opportunity for me to maybe expand into another market with a guy that I know really well. I could, support him in, say, an office at the coast. I know the systems are proven. So all I've got to do is really help get this guy set up. He can dive in, run the systems like he did before, and flourish. And now you've just scaled your business in a really safe way. And provided huge opportunities for all sorts of people around you. So there's benefits to a bigger brand that I think a lot of folks don't really get until you get underneath and start to think about all those other things.
So a couple of things I want to come back to. One, the typical person who would wants to buy into the Alair homes, the avatar, is it 50 plus, custom builder, custom remodeler, has his name, very proud of his name. There was a Charlotte company when I lived there too, because I lived in Charlotte at the same time you did.
So this is a question and a story.
Yes. Okay. What was there was a big Italian builder name. I mean, the name was all over Lake Norman. Do you remember that name?
I think I know who you're talking about. I can't. Yeah, I can't.
It doesn't matter who it is, but didn't you find that there's an ego where those guys are like, I don't want to give up what I built.
Oh, absolutely.
And so now I'm going to call it Alair Homes. I don't even know what the hell Alair is. I mean,
that's the biggest struggle for most people when they think about this, is that, what do you mean? What do you mean I got to give up my name, or I've got to call myself something different? And that's for us when we're recruiting people, talking to people. It has to be a really good fit, and they've got to understand what it is that what we're doing. They've got to see the bigger picture, and that's usually the biggest stumbling block, and where, frankly, it goes both ways. Where we will kind of end the relationship is if we feel the big ego thing coming through, that they're not going to be a good fit for us.
Well, and you see that in any kind of franchising where people will love what they see with the model. They see all the advantages, and they understand that they now are kind of, to a certain extent, giving up a little bit of freedom to have this business in a box. And they say all the right things until they write the check. And then next thing you know, they want to run it their own way anyway. And so I have a feeling if you're in the coaching role, that's one thing that you have to constantly deal with.
That's a high maintenance person. Yeah, that's not something that I'm going to be eager to pursue. And the other thing is, on the tail end, I talked about that was one of the things for us, was what are we going to do with this business when we grow up, when we get older. And when Roger, my business partner, and I were thinking about Alair, that was certainly one of the things that came across as a big positive for us was, this is going to be something that is going to be much more saleable and will have value in the future, because it doesn't have to be us. Anybody could come in, and obviously if they're a builder or modeler, they have the skills and know how to build and I would say are credible contractors, they don't have to come in and say, oh, well, if Roger and Duane aren't there, then there's nothing left of the business, and I think that's the problem with so many small businesses, is that you create something, but you end up creating it between your ears,
Has anybody successfully exited an Alair after doing this?
Yeah, absolutely.
They have.
Yeah.
And is that one of the primary motives, or is it more about the systems and the freedom? Because I know when we talked in Savannah, my mindset was I would get into this to help me exit my business with a saleable asset like a franchise. And after I get done talking with you, I'm like, that's a totally different model that they're pitching and preaching, which I loved. So are you finding that that's the motive for people coming in, or is it?
It really depends. I mean, we've got young folks coming in that are interested in what we're doing. We've got older folks. We've got teams, large companies, small companies. I would say a lot of times the companies that are a good fit are companies that are probably doing about 3 million in revenue and up. They're people that they want to scale in some form or fashion. And what I mean by that is some folks might be looking to scale because they want to go from 3 million to 6 million, or they want to go from 5 million to 10 million. And they want to have some controls in place, so that they don't just grow wildly and create a ton of chaos. We've got people that may want to diversify. Hey, I've got a home here in Charlotte, but you know what? I also have a beach home, and there's a huge market down there. So I would love to open up a second location. Then we've got people that start thinking about the exit. That's exactly what they're thinking about. They're like, yeah, this has been my thing for years, but I see how difficult it could be to exit, to get out of this. And this could be a path for them to that as well. So it's really, there's no one size fits all. There's a lot of different reasons, but most of the one common theme that you will see with people that I think get attracted to what we're doing is that at some level, they want more of those. They want more reward. They want more freedom. They want more time, to themselves, to have some options to do other things outside the business. They don't want their business to be all consuming anymore.
So one of the things on your bio that caught my attention is succession planning and exit strategy and making yourself replaceable. And so few entrepreneurs give that a thought until it's almost too late. So tell me how this caught your attention. Hopefully it was in time. And what are some of the things that you try to encourage people to think about as their business matures?
Yeah, I think that those are the things that, first of all, you do have to start to identify what are you going to be or what are you going to do when you grow up. You personally with your business, you have to start to have a little bit of a vision. Okay, what is this? Where do I want to be 5 years, 10 years, down the road? What does that look like? Am I involved in the business? Am I only working a few days a week? Have I sold it? Have I packed it up and am I going to open a microbrewery and I'm done with whatever it is, you've got to have it. Yeah, I like that idea too.
Of course you do.
If you don't have the vision, it's going to be really hard to get there. And then also by having that vision, you can share that with your team. If you've got any staff, and you can start to rally people around what this vision is and work towards it. So, I think that's first and foremost. You've just got to have the vision. Then you can start to back into what are the parts and pieces I need to make this happen, and there's all sorts of different ways of getting there. We're big proponents on the podcast and even through Alair with EOS, called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. That's something that we are big proponents of because it helps folks identify things like the core values, the mission, developing goals. They call them rocks. I think for me, one of the things going through all of this, getting involved with Alair, starting the podcast, just collaborating more and more with folks like yourself and business coaches. And because I think we're, this industry is so revolved around a craft, it's hard sometimes. We put that first instead of the business, and I've heard it said a few different ways, but basically what it comes down to is you really have to get to that point where you realize I'm a business person first. And I just happen to be in construction, or I happen to be in, real estate, interior design, whatever. You've got to be able to think as a business person first, and then really just consume all that you can around business fundamentals, how things that are going to be healthy for a business. Because when it's done the other way, it's just a huge struggle and it almost never works.
Not almost. It's hard to get out of your way when you are the great technician, back to the E-Myth. And
yeah.
And I've told people this, it wasn't me being the best handyman in my company. It was me being so focused on management as opposed to being the entrepreneur. But you got to have that business focus, that customer focus, because that's going to bring it. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. We just all really think it's really cool because we all fancy ourselves as artists in the home. Because that's why I was asking you early on, because I've, did you see yourself going from framer to interior carpenter to master custom woodworker? I have a cabinet guy in my company who is one of the most exquisite custom cabinet guys I've ever seen. He happens to really like working here and likes to being able to do different things, and he just does it. But if you ask him what he is, he says, number one, I'm a carpenter. I'm not a handyman. I'm a carpenter. And so we want to have that artistry, but we also realize that artistry is going to hold us back in our business and allow us to, or not allow us to exit with an asset. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people, when you said, and this is such a tragedy, when a great custom home builder just shuts his doors and says, I'm done because I'm old, my kids didn't get into it, I don't have anybody else to give it to. That's just a tragedy. So that's where I see where you guys are helping.
And it is the norm. I mean, it just is, because I have the opportunity to, to work with a lot of different business owners, and when you dive into their operations, their books, and how they operate, and the idea that somebody's going to come along and stroke the big check to buy your business, it doesn't happen in this industry. It just doesn't. It's very rare. And it's a one-off thing.
It's not exclusive to the trades or to the building industry. I mean,
it's not at all.
Yeah, it's all entrepreneurs.
It is.
And so I think it's great that, I mean, the first step is just getting people to just think about it. To stop and think about it. And, then you can start putting together those action steps.
We had a guest
a lot of team in the
while ago about that, talking about exit strategy. And you actually hit on the same point she said, is that a lot of people can't see themselves after. So therefore they're afraid to think about the exit, or they'll use the phrase, well, I'm going to exit in 10 years. Because 10 years isn't going to ever happen.
Because 10 years is right.
That's like, tomorrow never comes, so you get free beer tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's sad too.
When I suck into that every time, by the way, when I go to the bar, but and I never get the fucking free beer.
Free beer tomorrow.
But you talked about that, and you said the same thing, and she focuses on exit planning. And it seems like, again, what you provide and what you do is, it also makes the second part, kind of that the halftime, your second part of your career, a little bit easier to see yourself as the entrepreneur and not the manager or not the master woodworker.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the big things for me, I would say the thing that transformed for me internally, personal growth, was when I realized that, yes, I'm a business owner trying to put, and when I say put business first, that doesn't mean you have to give up quality or give up your relation. You don't have to do that, but you have to be able to just think as a business person. Because you owe it to everybody. You owe it to your team. But there was, for me, I had heard it from a few other coaches and some other successful folks, but and I realized, wow, I said, that's where I want to spend my time personally, was, it should be my responsibility now as a business owner to constantly create opportunities for other people. That's my highest and best use.
That's right.
Because and when I do that, and it's been so rewarding to spend time doing that, like to, see some folks on my team that maybe want to elevate themselves to go from, carpenter up to project manager, or somebody that is in my office that I have an office manager, Karina, that has just over the last couple of years done some amazing things and gotten involved being on the board of directors with NARI and some other building groups, and now she's involved with Professional Women in Building, and but it was just awesome. Opening the door and giving up an opportunity, and to me, that's, if I could do that all the time, I'd be tickled to death, and that for me, that's where I need to be. So back to the point of trying to look forward a little bit, you've got to figure what that is for you. Everybody's going to be different. We had a little exercise, highest and best use. That's exactly what it is. What is your highest and best use? Where should you be focusing your time? Because if you're spending your time doing those things that you don't like and you're not good at, you're not helping anybody, not yourself. You're not helping anybody around you. And frankly, you're burning time and energy.
So we're coming towards the end of our time here. I want to ask, so what does a week look like for Duane? What do you, I mean, because you're not hauling lumber anymore. You're not going up on the roof. Maybe you're going on vacation.
Yeah, you know, I
That's
do
what my
get some
week looks
travel
like.
now. I don't, fortunately, I've gotten to the point where I am still the co-owner of my construction business in Charlotte with Roger. Roger has moved a little bit more into the day-to-day. He actually really just runs the sales business development side. We've got a great team of folks that are running the business, project managers, carpenters. I sit more like in the visionary seat now. I mean, I just try to help guide the ship a little bit. I try to mentor where I can. I try to create those opportunities, like I said, for other folks. So it might be high level recruiting stuff. It might be working on some of the bigger picture relationships, but you know, I'm just not involved in the day to day. So it's not consuming my time. I spend, you know, half a day or so a week on a podcast, you know, I really enjoy that because I get the opportunity to just interview other builders across the country, remodelers, you know, spend time with folks like you. I get to bring on other business coaches, consultants, and it's just the collaboration. We've been blown away by that 2 years in now on the podcast. And Dave, my co-host, will say it a lot. When we started, you know, the intention was we were thinking that we're going to kind of share what we've learned, you know, and we've found that, wow, we're continuing to learn from every guest we bring on the podcast. You know?
That's a great point. I've had somebody ask me, "Oh, hey man, are you making any money on your podcast?" I said, "Well, I said no," and then I realized I picked up a couple jobs, but I got done telling a couple guys that I've actually learned more on this podcast about how to run my business than I would, you know. And I'm in a mastermind group once a month, and so the podcast has actually been good for me, and I appreciate Alan coming down and having like you come on, and I get to listen to your podcast and talk about different things. But that's what I wanted to bring up is that, so your week right now, I mean, what is our definition of success? You know, it doesn't have to be the big go fast boat, the house in the Hamptons. It doesn't have to be the airplane. It's that collaboration, that continual learning, that the stuff you're talking about, because never once did you talk about taking a vacation, Alan.
No, for me, I get to collaborate with great people every day. You know, I get to travel. Like Friday, I'm going to go up to the mountains of North Carolina. I'm going to spend the day with one of the Alair folks we have up in Blowing Rock, and just, you know, help him talk about his business.
Funny enough, I'm heading to the mountains this weekend as well.
Look
North
at
Carolina.
you two up in the mountains,
But
while the rest of us have to work.
But I'm not collaborating. I'm just going to my house.
I'll tell you the genius thing that Duane has mentioned a couple of times, and it's not that he's downplayed it, but is the fact that he's focusing on the success of others. And if you all you do is focus on the success of your team, you ensure your own success. And to me, that's the nugget.
That's the nugget.
I agree with you.
You know,
That's right.
and by doing that, you know, you're also instilling in every one of those folks you're trying to help lead, or turning them into leaders, and they're going to do the same. You know, and it's the one thing that we all struggle with.
And that's what success looks like for me, especially when somebody says, "What is the favorite thing that happens to you in your company?" Is that when I get a review that comes in and says, from the moment I called to the time the estimator came out to the time my scheduler called to the person who completed everything, these guys were top-notch professionals. And I'm like, wow, that's just so cool.
That's very cool. Yeah.
And that's all because it had nothing to do with me, everything to do with them and them trying to do their job better than they did it yesterday.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and that dovetails right into the succession planning and making, you know, yourself replaceable.
Yeah. It's time. We talk about it a lot. You know, I mean, time, I think, is the thing that if all of us can be better with our time, you can't make more of it. You can't have, but what you do with it, and if, no matter who you are, like I said, from the carpenter, the business owner, project manager in a completely different industry, whatever, if you've gotten yourself to the point where you've got more available time to do the things that you want to do, to me, that's success.
Yep. I think that's a great point, and I think that's a great definition of success. And we'll have to end on that huge gold nugget. It was good. But now, Duane, I've got to ask the 3 questions we ask everybody, and I'm having so much fun with these, and I've heard some incredible answers, and I've been playing these back to other people. But the first question I've got for you is, what is your favorite feature of your house?
Favorite feature of my house. I would say the favorite feature of my house is maybe the fact that it's livable.
So what's that mean?
Well, what I mean by that is it's certainly not, it's not a big house. It's a 1-story ranch. It's just, you feel like you just want to live in it. You want to use it. There's nothing about it that you feel like you're going to break or, then yeah, I would say that's the thing.
So you
And
don't
we
have
get
a room
comments
that
on
your
that.
wife won't let you go in?
No, you know,
Oh,
it's a
shit.
very
Or a
livable,
roof that you can't get up on
comfortable
top of.
I
Yeah.
definitely can't get up there. Yeah, I had to have one of my guys come out and get the drone off the top of my roof because I was like, I'm not going up there anymore, dude. I'm out. Nope. Yep. All right. Number 2. When you're out there in the world and you have customer service, because I think you brought up that we're all in the business world, but we're also in the customer service world. What is one of your biggest customer service pet peeves?
I would say my customer service pet peeve is when somebody reacts, whenever the reaction from that person is you're bothering them. Like
Right, they're put out by you.
they're put
asking
out
for-
by you asking for help. You
Yeah.
know, like yeah, you bought something, they provided a service to you, you need assistance. You know, yeah.
You know, back in my old corporate days, we called it thinly veiled contempt. It's not thinly veiled anymore. It's just contempt.
Right.
It's not. You get it now. You just go to a restaurant and try to get a table, and that's what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
maybe
a good,
maybe
that's a
we
great
can.
one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
How many? There's 8.
There's 8. All 8. Are they all here? Sure. Oh, I only count 7. Well, okay.
And by the way,
We-
you're paying
we had
twice as
one-
much for half the portion.
We had one a few weeks ago that was, you know, really just makes you sit there and wonder for a moment. Where that was it. We came in, and I think there was 10 of us, but we came in and it was like 10. I think we really can't do any more than 4 at a table. How about we put 2 tables together? Chaos. Just threw them into a whirlwind. It was disappointing them, disrupted the whole thing. So yeah, that's my pet peeve.
Darn customers.
I know it. That's a great one. It reminds me of a story. We were up in Michigan just recently, and we went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and it's the only place that was open. It was on Cinco de Mayo, and we went to the Mexican place first at 9:40, and they said, "Sorry, we're closed." It says you close at 10. No, we're closed. So we go to Buffalo Wild Wings. We go in there, 2 tables sat. Right, these Buffalo Wild Wings are huge. The 2 people at the front are sitting there. You look over, and the tables are all not bussed. There's nothing going on, and they say, "Well, how many?" And we said, "Well, there's 5 of us." Okay, we're going to see if we can sit you. Why are you guys closing? No, we just got to see if we have an open table. You're looking across the restaurant, and literally there are 25 open tables and 2 people sitting there. You're like, so I finally just asked. I said, "You're not the manager, are you?" No, sir. I said, no offense. I said, why don't you just ask him if we can just have us sit down? Because we could sit at the bar if you want us to. And they're like, well, he's really busy. And I look over, and they go over and talk to him. He's one of the guys sitting at one of the tables that's full. He was there with his buddies just hanging out.
Oh my God.
So there you go, customer service.
Yeah,
Put out.
it won't be there the next time you're there.
No, I have a big feeling of that. All right, number 3. Give us, and you fit in the business. Give us a DIY or contractor nightmare story.
One of the worst I think I've ever seen, and it wasn't really directly related to us, but I remember passing this house probably for over a year, and in a really, nice neighborhood in Charlotte. And it was like, what's going on here? This house has been ripped apart, tore apart. The windows are ripped out. I mean, it's a mess constantly. And there's work going on, and then it stops, and then there's work going on. And then I get a call one day from the lady that's asking me if we could finish this house. And I got in, I took the conversation with her and talked, and then started to learn a little bit more about it. I called the architect that had worked on it, and he's like, run. And so the more I dug into it and found out, talked to a couple of trades that worked on it, and realized that this project had gone so far off the rails. A lot of it was the client's fault, just in the way they were trying to cobble things together. But I guess, long story short, is this house was a complete disaster. probably, I would say they probably had put close to 600,000 into it, and none of it was worth saving. It all had to just go. Um, and I think she went on another year of cobbling, somehow just coercing people to show up to do a little bit more work. And then at the end of the day, I think she threw her hands up, sold it. Somebody came in, knocked the house down, and built something new anyway. So
back to something I've learned on this podcast. Dave Lipperker came on episodes ago and said there is one thing that Duane knows, Chris knows. We know how to run a good project. We know how to execute a good project in a house. And if the customer doesn't let you do that, then you will not be successful. And if you let them do that, they will absolutely run you in the ground. And I took that back to my team, and sure enough, we got out of one that would have been a nightmare, because I've been in that nightmare situation where they use this line. Here's passive aggressive to the 9. Well, I'm not the expert here, but why didn't you do the drywall after you did the electrical? And they're like completely back asswards, and so they said our trade showed up and the project manager wasn't there, and they sent him away. And then it went on so we had to reschedule everybody. Took us another week to get everybody scheduled back. And then what she sends me an email saying, I don't think your project manager knows what he's doing, and this project is taking too long. And so I dig in, find out everything that's going on. I'm like, well, if you just let me run the project there, honey, we would have it done, right? Just let him do his thing, and maybe you'd be in your kitchen. But if you want to keep doing this stuff and calling off our trades when they show up, because that trade's supposed to go for this trade because you read that at HGTV, time to go, baby.
Yeah. That's actually a really good nugget right there. I think for anybody out there that is a business owner, you need to understand how crippling it can be to the rest of your team if you're not doing a good job of making sure you're working for good clients.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've heard that before. You got to make sure good people are coming in, because it's harder. It's easier to get rid of a customer than it is to keep an employee. You want to keep employees because they make you more money than your customers at the end of the day. Yeah. So you got to put them in a position for success. So, no, Duane, this has been awesome, man. Everything I thought it would be. You were bringing some total value. Loved everything that's going on. How can everybody get a hold of you and find out more about what you do and what's going on with the Builder Nuggets podcast, with everything else you want to push? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is go to buildernuggets.com. The website's got all of our episodes on there. It's got some information about myself and Dave, my co-host. Builder Nuggets, you can find us on Instagram. Duane Johns, you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can look up Alair Homes as well if you're interested in what they're doing. So
awesome. Alan?
Awesome.
It was awesome. Thanks again, Duane. I really liked it. Look forward to it. And I'll find my way up to Charlotte pretty soon.
Look me up, man. Get down to Charlotte and we'll get together.
I'm actually working on a trip. We're not going to call it a vacation, but the Panthers play the Falcons on Thursday night. So I think we're heading up to watch it. So
good Lord.
I might dial you up when we get up there.
And there's no lack of breweries in Charlotte.
Oh, and I like breweries. Oh, here we go. Duane, thanks again. All right, everybody. The Small Business Safari. Go out there, Adventure Team. Make it happen. Keep going up that mountaintop of success. Make it happen and find out what we're all about. Till next time, we're out of here. Bye, Alan.
Bye, Chris.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Small Business Safari. Remember to keep that positive attitude, which will reflect in a higher altitude as you're out there making it happen in the wild world of small business ownership. Until next time, go make it a great day, Adventure Team.